Elia ran across the cracked, sun-baked street, her small feet kicking up clouds of dust that glimmered in the harsh twin suns. She clutched the fraying edges of her thin dress, the fabric worn and faded, the smell of hard work and sweat clinging to it. Her mother lay at home, weak and shivering, a pale figure in a room too hot one moment and too cold the next. The sickness had come quietly, a creeping shadow from the mining fields outside the settlement. Radiation, they said, something the aliens had left behind, a consequence of their drilling and digging. Elia did not understand much of it, only that every day her mother grew weaker, and the medicine they could afford was not enough. She stopped at the edge of the street, staring at the figure leaning against the wooden wall of the starport cantina. The cowboy. Everyone called him that, though his age was impossible to guess. His hat cast a shadow over his face, but his posture told a story of calm authority, of someone who had seen too much and yet refused to be rushed by fear or violence. His coat flapped slightly in the wind, the color of faded ash, and the boots on his feet were scuffed and weathered. Elia hesitated. Most people avoided him. Some said he was a relic of the old human expansion, a ghost from a time when humans were feared across galaxies for their skill, their unpredictability, their quiet strength. "Excuse me," she whispered, stepping closer. Her voice was trembling. "My ma, she's sick, awfully sick. Can anyone help us?" The sounds of the starport went on around them, shouts of traders, the clatter of cargo bots, the distant roar of landing craft. But in that moment it felt as if the world had narrowed to just them. Elia swallowed hard. "Please, I don't know what to do. The guilds, they won't help, and the union doctors, they won't come. She's dying." Her words trailed off into a whisper, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. The cowboy finally nodded once, barely perceptible, as if acknowledging that he had heard her plea and understood the weight behind it. He did not speak. Instead, he reached into his coat and produced a small, metallic device, pressing a series of buttons in a pattern that seemed almost ritualistic. A faint hum vibrated in the air. Elia's eyes widened as she realized he was sending a signal, not to anyone in the immediate settlement, but far beyond, to the dark reaches of space where the human fleets of old still lingered, hidden from most of the galaxy. Are you going to help us?" she asked. The cowboy tipped his hat slightly, a small gesture that was neither a yes nor a no. But the movement gave her hope, and that was enough. She turned to run back toward her home, the device clutched tightly in her small hand. Behind her, the cowboy watched, and for a brief moment, the shadows under his hat seemed to flicker with something almost human, a sense of patience, of waiting for the right moment. The night fell quickly on Caldera 9. The twin suns had set, leaving the settlement bathed in the pale glow of the planet's larger moon. Elia's home was small, a cramped structure built from metal scraps and reinforced glass panels. Inside, her mother lay on a thin mattress, her skin pale and clammy, her breath shallow. "Ma," Elia whispered, kneeling beside her. She pressed a cool hand to her mother's forehead. Someone's coming. They're going to help. I think." Outside the settlement, in the barren wastes beyond the starport, a ship descended quietly, its hull glinting silver in the moonlight. It landed without fanfare, without alarms, as if it had been there all along. From its open ramp, a small team of medics stepped out, moving with efficiency and precision. They were human, but unlike any humans the settlers had ever seen. Their uniforms bore no insignia of the Union or any known fleet, and their equipment shimmered with technology far beyond the crude tools the settlement possessed. Inside, the cowboy waited. He did not move, watching silently as the medics approached the house. When they entered, the air seemed to shimmer with a quiet authority, and for the first time, Elia felt a glimmer of hope that went beyond mere wishful thinking. The medics worked quickly, scanning her mother with instruments that emitted soft, colored lights. One of them spoke in calm, clear tones. "Radiation exposure is severe but not irreversible. Immediate treatment is necessary. We can stabilize her, but she must rest under our care for several days. You did the right thing by coming to me. Sometimes it means reminding the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." Each day, Elia would sit by her bedside, watching her regain color, strength, and the faint spark of her old stubborn spirit. She began to ask questions about the cowboy, about the fleet that had appeared and disappeared without leaving any trace. But the cowboy gave no answers, only quiet smiles and subtle lessons about patience, resilience, and the power of humans working together. Outside, the settlement began to change as well. Word spread quickly of the mysterious intervention, and soon other settlers, sick and desperate, came forward seeking help. The cowboy handled each request with calm precision, his presence alone enough to encourage hope. Yet he never overstepped, never boasted, never revealed more than necessary. The aliens running the mining operations noticed the changes first. Their supply chains were disrupted, their crews reported malfunctions in machinery they had considered flawless. Panic spread quietly through the ranks, as if an invisible hand had reached into the heart of their operations. Yet no one knew who, or what, was responsible. The cowboy walked among the settlement, observing the effects of his presence. He watched as humans he had never met before began to organize, share resources, and protect one another in ways that surprised even him. They were resilient, inventive, stubborn, and relentless when it came to preserving life. It was a reminder of something he had known for centuries, that humans were more than they appeared to be. They carried within them a power that the galaxy could not measure simply by counting fleets or technology. Late one night, as the twin moons of Caldera 9 cast silver light across the settlement, Elia approached him again. Why do they call you a cowboy?" she asked softly. He chuckled, a dry sound like the wind through empty canyons. "Because I ride where I'm needed. Because I protect what's worth protecting. Because sometimes the old ways are the only ways that make sense in a galaxy gone mad." The cowboy tipped his hat toward her just slightly. "They will. One day, for now, focus on your ma, help her get strong. That is enough for the universe to notice." Her strength had returned enough for her to stand and take the first steps outside their small home. The settlement looked brighter, more alive. People were talking, planning, and helping one another in ways they never had before. The alien presence felt smaller, weaker, almost tentative in the face of human determination. Ilya looked up at the horizon, imagining the cowboy riding off into the vast stretches of space. Invisible yet powerful, a quiet reminder of what humans could achieve when they refused to give in. Her heart swelled with hope, but also with pride. She realized, even at her young age, that the galaxy had begun to notice humans in ways that could not be ignored. And somewhere far beyond the edge of human-controlled space, the faint glimmer of human fleets stirred. Ancient, hidden, and silent, waiting for the right moment to show the galaxy the truth, that humans were not prey, not weak, and not helpless. Elia took her mother's hand. Together they looked at the stars above Caldera 9. The twin suns were gone, leaving the sky full of distant points of light. Some were planets, some were ships, some were alien colonies. But all of them would soon understand one thing. Humans, even small, fragile humans like Elia, carried the strength to change the course of the universe. And the cowboy would ride on, quietly, endlessly, watching, guiding, and reminding the galaxy of what it had always forgotten. That human courage, ingenuity, and resilience were forces beyond reckoning. The mining guild had never faced a problem like this. Their equipment faltered without warning. Drills that once cut through the rock like knives now stuttered and jammed. Convoys that had delivered ore without incident were delayed or went missing entirely. The alien supervisors muttered darkly among themselves, blaming sabotage, weather anomalies, even ghosts, but no explanation fit. Nothing in their experience matched the sudden, invisible disruption that seemed to follow the small human settlement on Caldera 9. From her window, Elia could see the guild's ships hovering hesitantly over the mining fields, their lights flickering strangely in the thin atmosphere. She had never seen humans move like this, not in fleets, not in drills or supply runs, but she sensed that something had changed. It was subtle at first. The way the workers walked with unease, the way the overseers gestured urgently through communication links, the whispers that spoke of a human presence they could not identify or confront. The cowboy did not speak of these things to her. He moved through the settlement quietly, observing the reactions, noting the small sparks of courage and ingenuity that had begun to bloom among the settlers. Humans, he thought, were remarkable in their ability to endure, to adapt, and to fight without needing weapons. The galaxy underestimated them because it had always measured power with brute force or technology. Humans did not always need such tools. Sometimes it was the mind and the will that mattered most. Elia spent her days helping her mother recover. Her mother's strength was returning, but she remained weak enough that each step outside the small home was an effort. Yet her presence alone was enough to galvanize the community. Seeing that even the most vulnerable among them could survive, adapt, and persist inspired others. Families who had once fled the mining sites cautiously began to rebuild homes closer to the settlement. Traders who had feared the guild now arrived, bringing small supplies and news of distant sectors, all aware that the balance of power on Caldera 9 was shifting, even if they could not yet name the reason. Then one day, the guild finally decided to investigate in person. A small squad of heavily armed aliens descended in their transport, weapons at the ready, scanning for threats. They moved with confidence, their armor reflecting the pale light of Caldera 9's moons. Their mission was simple: identify the source of the disruption and eliminate it. The cowboy stood outside the settlement, watching. He did not move toward them at first, nor did he attempt to confront them directly. Instead, he allowed them to approach, observing how the humans of Caldera 9 reacted. And the humans reacted in ways that surprised even him. Children who had been hidden in homes peered from windows and doorways, not out of fear, but curiosity. Farmers set aside tools for now, gathering in small clusters, ready to defend their homes if necessary. Traders adjusted shields and rudimentary energy fields, improvising defenses that were crude but effective. And when the guild squad finally reached the settlement's edge, they were met not with weapons but with human strategy. Ilya watched from a distance as the squad moved into position, scanning the area, unaware of the traps the humans had quietly prepared. Small energy nets hung from scaffolding, wires and sensors connected to storage containers. When the aliens triggered the first device, it activated a dazzling burst of light and sound, not enough to harm, but enough to disorient. Then the ground beneath them shifted slightly, sending the squad stumbling. The humans had turned their environment into a weapon without firing a shot, without risking unnecessary harm. The cowboy finally moved forward then, stepping into the path of the bewildered squad. His hat cast a long shadow across the cracked earth, his coat brushing against dust and stone. The aliens paused, their weapons raised, ready for an attack. Yet the cowboy did not attack. He raised a single hand open, a gesture of calm authority. "You do not understand," he said in a voice that carried across the field. "These people are under my protection. You may leave now, or you may find that your ships, your tools, your very plans fail in ways you cannot imagine. I will not fight you, but I will ensure that you cannot harm them. We do not need to fight you. You only need to understand that humans are not to be underestimated. You have underestimated us for too long." He simply watched them leave, then turned to the settlement, nodding once at the humans who had observed silently, learning that courage and intellect could be as powerful as any weapon. Ilya ran to meet him, her eyes wide. How did you do that?" she asked, breathless. The cowboy smiled faintly. "We prepared for this. Humans do not always need to fight to win. Sometimes strategy, patience, and understanding are stronger than firepower. Remember that? Never forget it." But across the settlement, across nearby colonies, humans began to understand their own potential. Simple people, ordinary families, could influence the course of events without armies, without fleets, and without violence. They needed only courage, creativity, and unity. Meanwhile, deeper in space, signals pulsed quietly from hidden human fleets. Ships long thought to be relics of a forgotten age moved in silence, observing the galaxy, ready to intervene only when absolutely necessary. The cowboy was in constant communication with them, though he did not speak of it to anyone in the settlement. He knew that humanity's reputation was fragile. The galaxy must not learn too much too soon, or it could provoke fear, suspicion, and unnecessary conflict. Humans would act carefully, deliberately, teaching others the value of respect and restraint through example rather than domination. Ilya began to notice subtle changes in herself, too. She had always been timid, shy, careful in the face of danger. But now, inspired by the humans around her and guided by the quiet lessons of the cowboy, she found herself braver. She asked questions, spoke to neighbors, and helped organize small efforts to maintain order and safety in the settlement. Children her age followed her example, learning that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Then came the next challenge. The mining guild, unable to comprehend the disruption, sent a second, larger squad. This time they brought machinery, weapons, and drones designed to monitor every movement in the settlement. They believed their numbers would overwhelm the humans. They believed they could intimidate and control. The cowboy had anticipated this. Long before the squad arrived, humans had dug trenches, created decoys, and developed simple but effective warning systems. Every child, every farmer, every merchant knew their role, their task, and the timing of each movement. When the squad advanced, the humans did not flee. They executed a series of maneuvers so precise, and coordinated that even the alien commanders could not believe what they were seeing. Traps were activated in sequence. Drones were captured without damage, machinery was disabled without destruction, and communication signals jammed with ingenuity that seemed impossible for a settlement that had once been so isolated. The aliens tried to adapt, but every plan was anticipated. Every move met with countermeasures that relied not on technology alone, but on human creativity, determination, and collaboration. In the midst of it all, the cowboy moved silently, observing, guiding, and intervening only when necessary. His presence was like a calm wind over turbulent seas, steadying the humans, giving them confidence without removing the need for their own action. By the end of the day, the alien squad had retreated again, their pride wounded, their confidence shattered. They reported back to the guild. Humans were not to be underestimated. There was no fleet, no army, no visible power behind them, but something about the humans of Caldera 9 had changed the balance of risk. They were dangerous, not because of what they wielded, but because of who they were. Elia sat on the edge of her home, exhausted but elated. Her mother, now walking more confidently, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've done well," she said softly. "Not because of what you fought, but because of what you inspired. Humans are stronger than they know." But here in this small settlement, humans had demonstrated their value, their ingenuity, their strength, and it was only the beginning. The cowboy returned as the sun set, walking through the settlement with a calm that inspired awe. He did not boast of the outcomes. He did not celebrate. He simply reminded the humans of one principle: preparedness, courage, and intellect are far more potent than weapons alone. As night fell over Caldera 9, the aliens of the mining guild repaired their ships, plotted new strategies, and whispered warnings among themselves. But the seeds of doubt had been planted. The humans of this remote settlement were no longer simple, defenseless prey. They were clever, coordinated, and unexpectedly resilient. And somewhere in the quiet vastness of space, fleets that had once been invisible moved in silent alignment, watching, waiting, ready to protect without overwhelming force. Elia and her mother sat outside their home, looking at the stars. The twin moons of Caldera 9 shone pale and distant, and the faint glimmer of distant ships hinted at a hidden human presence far beyond the eyes of ordinary settlers. Elia's mother took her daughter's hand. "Remember this," she said. "Strength is not only in what we hold in our hands. Strength is in what we carry in our minds and hearts. Never forget that." The humans of Caldera 9 had taken the first steps toward awakening the galaxy to the truth, that humanity, underestimated for too long, could shape destiny not by conquest, but by will, courage, and the relentless drive to protect what was theirs. The alien guild would come to realize that humans were no longer the prey they had thought them to be. And the galaxy one day would take note of the quiet, deliberate power that humans carried within them. For now, the settlement thrived. The humans learned from each encounter, grew stronger, and began to see themselves as something more than simple colonists on a forgotten world. They were a force of intellect, ingenuity, and resilience. And the cowboy, ever watchful, prepared for the challenges yet to come, knowing that the next test would not just prove their courage, but would force the galaxy to reckon with the truth about humanity. The horizon glowed faintly with the approaching dawn. The twin suns would rise again, and with them, new opportunities, new threats, and new chances for humans to demonstrate their worth. And in the quiet of the desert night, Elia whispered a silent promise. She would help humanity be seen, respected, and remembered. The galaxy had begun to change. The human story had begun. And in the midst of it all, on a small, dusty world at the edge of known space, humans were learning that even the smallest voices could echo across the stars, and that courage, when combined with cleverness and compassion, could alter the fate of worlds. The morning air on Caldera 9 was crisp and quiet, the twin suns just beginning to rise above the jagged horizon. Elia stood at the edge of the settlement, watching the soft light spill across the desert, illuminating the small homes and the fields where humans had begun to rebuild. The air smelled of dust, metal, and hope, a strange mix, but one she had come to associate with resilience. Her mother stood beside her, steady and strong now, the illness that had once consumed her fading into memory. Far beyond the planet, hidden fleets of human ships moved like ghosts. They remained unseen, yet their presence influenced everything in the sector. Sensors, systems, and navigation routes operated subtly under human guidance, ensuring that no threat could strike without being noticed. The cowboy, ever vigilant, communicated silently with these fleets, He did not command them. He simply coordinated, ensuring that humans in the frontier, even those as small and vulnerable as Elia and her settlement, would never face overwhelming danger alone. The alien mining guild had not forgotten their humiliation. Their second squad had retreated, reporting back a tale of humans who could outthink, outmaneuver, and resist without direct combat. Their leaders were furious, their pride wounded, yet none dared act recklessly. The humans of Caldera 9 had demonstrated that raw strength was not the only measure of power. Strategy, patience, and will could be even more formidable. And now, the guild's leaders made a fatal decision. They would return in force. Ships bristling with weapons, machinery designed to crush, and squads trained to intimidate, they set their sights on Caldera 9. They believed sheer numbers and firepower would restore their reputation. They did not yet understand the depth of human ingenuity. The cowboy watched the incoming fleet from a ridge overlooking the settlement. He adjusted the small communication device at his side, sending coded instructions to hidden human operatives throughout the nearby systems. Unlike the aliens, these humans had patience. They had learned restraint over centuries. Their strength was measured not in destruction, but in preparation, timing, and adaptability. Elia approached him, her small hand brushing his coat. "They're coming back," she said quietly, her voice a mix of fear and determination. "They are," the cowboy replied calmly. "But humans do not wait for luck. We prepare, we adapt, and we act with precision. You've already seen what happens when they underestimate us. Now you will see the next step." Farmers became scouts, children learned to signal warnings, traders prepared supply caches, and engineers, some barely older than Elia, modified rudimentary equipment into efficient tools for defense. The settlers moved with a quiet confidence, knowing that their actions, coordinated and clever, could shift the balance of an entire fleet. When the alien ships entered the orbit of Caldera 9, they were immediately confused. Sensors malfunctioned, systems that had always been reliable failed, and communications became inconsistent. Invisible forces manipulated their technology. Every attempt to scan or disrupt the settlement was met with countermeasures that seemed to anticipate every move. The aliens' frustration grew. They were powerful, experienced, and ruthless, yet the humans of Caldera 9 remained elusive, clever, and ready. The first wave of landing crafts approached, descending toward the desert plains. The cowboy moved into the front line, not to fight, but to guide. Using a combination of signals, decoys, and environmental traps, the humans channeled the alien squads into zones where their equipment could be neutralized. Drills became useless, weapons misfired, and vehicles became entangled in hidden networks of human ingenuity. Every step the aliens took, the humans anticipated. Elia watched, awe-filling her young heart, as ordinary humans executed maneuvers that would have taken years to master in any military academy. Farmers flipped switches that disrupted energy grids. Traders rerouted communication arrays to mislead enemy sensors. Engineers activated traps that disabled entire drones. Children guided signals and alerts with perfect timing, ensuring that no step of the plan failed. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could combine intellect, coordination, and courage with such precision. And then the cowboy stepped forward. He did not raise a weapon. He did not fire a shot. He merely activated a small device in his hand, and across the battlefield, subtle energy pulses echoed, amplifying the humans' efforts. Lights flickered on the alien ships, displays glitched, and the first signs of panic spread among their ranks. The aliens tried to adapt. They sent reinforcements. They shifted their tactics. But every adjustment was anticipated, every strategy countered. The humans of Caldera 9 were not fighting for glory, for conquest, or for power. They were fighting to survive, to protect their homes, and to assert their dignity. That motivation, coupled with creativity and intelligence, made them unstoppable. Elia's mother, standing beside her, whispered, "I have never seen anything like this." Humans are strongest when they are protecting what they love, when they are clever and united, when they refuse to be intimidated. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long. It is time it learned the truth. Ships retreated, drones were captured, and weapons became useless through human ingenuity. The guild had been humiliated again, this time in full view of hidden sensors that transmitted the event across neighboring sectors. Word spread quietly but inevitably. Humans were not weak. Humans were not to be trifled with. Across the galaxy, secret fleets watched silently, confirming the actions of the humans on Caldera 9. They did not intervene, Yet their presence alone ensured that any further escalation would be met with consequences far beyond the imagination of the alien guild. Humanity, it seemed, had not needed to show its full strength. A settlement of ordinary people had demonstrated enough to command respect. Elia ran through the streets of the settlement, helping wherever she could. She guided children to safe areas, assisted engineers in adjusting equipment, and relayed messages to farmers in the fields. She felt alive in a way she had never known. Fear had not gone away completely, but it had been replaced with confidence, courage, and a profound sense of purpose. Her mother followed her steps, moving steadily and speaking words of encouragement. "You see, Elia, humans do not need to roar. Sometimes we simply act. And when we act together with intelligence and courage, we can change the course of worlds." The galaxy had forgotten this, but humans had not. The alien guild retreated to regroup, their pride shattered and their assumptions about humans overturned. They spoke of ghosts, of impossible tactics, and of a presence they could not see. But in truth, they had witnessed the enduring power of human resilience, intellect, and courage, and that was enough. That evening, as the twin suns set again, the cowboy gathered the settlement. He did not speak of fleets, power, or victory. Instead, he spoke of unity, of preparation, and of understanding one's own strength. "You have done what many thought impossible," he said. "You have shown that humans are clever, adaptable, and strong. You have protected what matters most. And in doing so, you have reminded the galaxy of the truth it often forgets. Humans are not prey. We are guardians. We endure, we thrive, and when necessary, we act." The humans of Caldera 9 had achieved something extraordinary, not by violence alone, but by intelligence, courage, and unity. As the cowboy turned to leave, Elia ran to him. "Will you stay?" she asked, hope and worry mixing in her voice. He smiled faintly beneath the brim of his hat. "I have done what is necessary for now, but humans must continue to learn, to adapt, to grow. You have shown me that you are capable. Remember this always. Your strength comes from your heart, your mind, and your will. Protect it. Use it wisely. The galaxy will notice in time." The settlement watched silently, understanding that this figure, this quiet guardian, had been a symbol of something far greater, humanity itself. The days that followed were filled with recovery, rebuilding, and quiet celebration. The alien guild no longer threatened the settlement openly, and traders and neighbors from distant worlds came to witness the remarkable human ingenuity firsthand. Every person, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, learned the value of cooperation, courage, and strategy. Elia and her mother walked through the streets together, noticing the small ways the community had changed. Children laughed, adults shared stories of clever tactics, and neighbors helped one another in ways that felt revolutionary for such a small settlement. Elia's mother smiled, a brightness in her eyes that had been absent for so long. "You see, Elia," she said, squeezing her daughter's hand, "we are stronger than the galaxy realizes, and one day it will understand fully. Humans do not need to fight to be powerful. Our strength is in our unity, our intelligence, and our courage." Somewhere out there, hidden fleets of human ships moved silently, guardians of a legacy long forgotten by the galaxy. And somewhere else, the cowboy rode on, guiding, observing, and reminding humans of the potential they carried within themselves. The settlement thrived, and so did the humans within it. They had faced the impossible and succeeded not because they had superior weapons or armies, but because they had hearts and minds that refused to surrender. And as night fell over Caldera 9, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the quiet truth. Humans were formidable, not in arrogance, but in resilience, ingenuity, and the refusal to be ignored. Elia whispered a promise to herself as she looked at the moons, their pale light washing over the desert. She would continue to learn, to grow, and to inspire others. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of human power, and this was only the beginning. The story of humanity would unfold, not with war or conquest, but with courage, creativity, and the undeniable strength of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And so, as the twin moons of Caldera 9 glimmered in the night sky, humans had proved, once again, that their quiet courage could echo across the stars, that their ingenuity could outmatch fleets and empires, and that even the smallest settlement, guided by determination and intelligence, could shape the destiny of the galaxy. The cowboy disappeared into the darkness, a silent sentinel watching over the humans of Caldera 9. And somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, fleets of humans waited, hidden but ready, proving that the galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long and would never do so again. Elia turned back toward her mother, a sense of hope and responsibility settling over her. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was theirs to shape. And humans, she realized, could shape it better than any alien guild, fleet, or empire. They could survive, endure, and rise, quietly, intelligently, and unyieldingly. The galaxy had learned a lesson. The humans of Caldera 9 had shown the first signs of the truth. Underestimated humans were, in fact, unstoppable when they fought with courage, unity, and ingenuity. And the story of humanity, guided by invisible heroes and ordinary people alike, would continue to ripple across the stars. For Elia, her mother, and the settlement, life returned to normal, but nothing would ever be the same again. They had glimpsed the power of human potential, and the galaxy would never forget the quiet strength that had emerged from the deserts of Caldera 9. Humans endured, humans adapted, humans thrived, and the galaxy one day would learn to respect them fully.